All right. So, as a reminder, we talked about differentiation last week with chapter 9. I saw most people put in something for their article about differentiation. If you did not, please make sure you get that in there. Um, and then make sure that you respond to one of your classmates' posts before next week. Okay. Um, Chapter 10, we're going to talk about strategic pricing. Okay, and kind of things that we can do from the hotel perspective, kind of in a long term. From a long term perspective. Okay. Um, So remember, strategic is long term, what we want to do. Tactical is the short term. So when we think about pricing, what are some examples of tactical pricing we've talked about in class? Tactical short term. How do we address pricing in the short term? What might we do? What might we look at to determine our pricing if it's effective or not in the short term? Short term being like 1 week to maybe 1 month at the most. Okay, so we're going to forecast. We're going to compare what we're doing right now compared to what we forecasted. Okay, and if we are not where we want to be, what might we do with our price? We might lower it. Okay, y'all remember the formula that we use, that identical net revenue? I know it's been a while, but identical net revenue where we took the variable costs, we subtract them from our new rate and our old rate, okay? And we figure out based on the occupancy if we should lower our rate or not. If we don't have that that will tell us what occupancy we have to get to. So let's say we're at 75% occupancy and we decide we're going to probably lower our rate by $10. If we do that and we have to get to 90% occupancy within a week, going from 75 to 90 may not be that feasible. So we may decide to go ahead and leave our rates alone. Okay. So that identical net revenue, that formula we talked about, I don't recall the chapter off the top of my head, but that's tactical pricing in the short term. We're not at the occupancy level that we want. So we may decide to lower our price. Okay. Sometimes with those tactical pricing, we may do it, just look at the week. If it's during that week and it's not, we're not at the occupancy that we want, maybe we are a little bit too high. When I was working at La Quinta, part of my job as the front desk agent in the morning from the 7 to 3 shift, okay, as guests are coming to check out, in between guests checking out, part of my job was to go on to Orbitz at the time. So that was one of the newer online travel agencies, OTAs. My role was to go to Orbitz and figure out, is our rate similar to our competitors? Okay, maybe our rate is too high, and that's why our occupancy is lower than we forecasted because our rate is too high. Our competitors have already started lowering their prices, and so people that are more price sensitive are going to go to them instead. What do you think? Thumbs up for yes or thumbs down for no? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. What do you think? It's always a good idea to compete on price. True or false? It's always a good idea to compete on price. What do you think? True, false? Okay. Depends on your strategy. Okay. What happens if we solely compete on price? Okay. If Sarah's hotel is offering a 150 rate. Samantha's offering a 150 rate. Oscar's offering a 150 rate. And I'm gonna drop it to 125. Just because I want to compete on price. I want to be the lowest price. What's a problem with that situation?
You're not making enough money to maintain the rooms and everything.
Okay, so we may, if we're just making that arbitrary choice to be the lowest price, we maybe aren't taking into consideration what our variable costs are. Okay, what else? What else might be an issue with just competing solely on price? In what way? Okay. Well, okay, yeah, so if we go lower on our price.
Close the door because I have visitors, but they won't disturb.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. If we lower our price, our occupancy might go up. Yeah. What else? What might be an issue? What kind of a guest are we going to attract if we're competing simply on price?
That's so good.
The guest that just wants the lowest price, right? The guest that has no loyalty to us as a hotel or us as a brand, right? They're going to be looking for that value, okay? Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a bad guest. It just means that they're more budget conscious, okay? A friend of mine used to work at the Valencia Hotel, the Hotel Valencia downtown. And their strategy was to not compete on price, okay? Because they had this idea that if you lower the price so much, eventually you're going to attract a different clientele, which in her mind, she calls the soccer moms and ice chests. Okay. They don't want, not only does Hotel Valencia not want the soccer moms and ice chests rolling through the lobby, but the other guests that stay at a luxury boutique hotel also don't want, it could impact the experience of the other guests. Okay. And like she said, not that there's anything wrong with soccer moms and ice chests. It's just that's not the property for it. There's lots of properties out there that serve a lot of different clienteles. So you always want to make sure that you are meeting the needs of your guests, okay? When we will look at just simply matching, okay, so I'm at 175. Alondra's at 150. Anna Marie's at 125. And Soraya, you're at 135. Okay. If I just lower my rate to meet Anna Marie's 125, why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Yes.
It could be different size.
Okay.
One could have more rooms than the other.
True. It could be, but let's say we're all in the same comp set, right? So we're all pretty comparable hotels. If she drops her rate to 125 and I drop my rate to 125, what's an issue with that? What happens if she drops her rate to 118? And then I drop my rate to 118. And then she drops her rate to 115. Then I drop my rate to 115 just so I can match. Who's in control of my rate? She is.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're only lowering your rate just to match the lowest competitor, you have given up the control of your rate management to your competitor. Okay? So now it's wonderful. Like I feel like in theory, it's great to say, yeah, you should never match your pricing with your competitors. Sometimes that might be necessary. Okay. Especially if you're competing for a small group of people. Okay. If you're all competing for the same group of people, you might let's say, for example, I travel for work for St. Philip's College. If I'm traveling, if I'm going to a conference, if there's not a host hotel for the conference, I have to provide 3 quotes for hotels. Which one do you think St. Philip's is going to approve? The cheapest price. Yep, it doesn't matter what the 3 hotels are. The lowest price is the one that I'm going to be approved for my travel. And so sometimes when it comes to attracting group business or attracting, sometimes it does, you do have to kind of worry about having that. So you don't want to give up control of your rates to your competitors. And then also, you don't want to attract the guests that are only looking for that lowest price. Okay? Because if you do, if you attract that guest, Oscar attracts me as the guest that's looking for the lowest price. Well, then if Antonia's hotel is $5 cheaper, the next time I'm staying in San Antonio, where am I going to go?
Her
I'm
hotel.
going to go to her hotel. Anybody of y'all like me where I'm pulling up to an intersection, I gotta get gas. And I'm like, that one's $2.99 and that one's $2.91. I'm gonna go to this one, right? Because it's 8 cents cheaper per gallon. It's not gonna save me a whole lot in the long run. It's gonna save me like 80 cents to $1, right? But those price sensitive people on certain things, that's what they're gonna be looking for. Okay. Let's talk about rate fences. Rate fences, this is on your final exam, rate fences. And the reason why I know that is because I actually finished doing y'all's quizzes. I don't know if you noticed that or not. I was on the plane. People were not happy with me because it was 5 o'clock in the morning and I had my light on, answering the questions on the exam. But so I have all of your questions from chapters 1 through 12 already posted. All those quizzes are posted in Canvas. Okay. So rate fences. These are basically things that will distinguish rooms from one another. Okay. And we have physical and we have non-physical rate fences. So physical rate fences are things that are physically about the room that make it different. So the size of the room. Obviously, we're going to charge more for a suite than we are a standard room, right? So the size of the room is a physical attribute of that room. The bed configuration. So does it have 2 queen beds? Does it have 1 king bed? Or like in the pictures I was showing you of the Moxie, it looks like they had a king bed and then 2 bunk bed queens in the same room, right? So that's an interesting configuration. The location of the room. That also is going to be a physical rate fence, okay? So let me show you an example. I'm going to give you the Valencia Hotel. All right. So this is Hotel Valencia on the Riverwalk. Now, normally, where in the hotel is the presidential suite usually located? On the highest floor, right? At Hotel Valencia, the presidential suite is right here on the 3rd floor. Okay, the presidential suite goes from this window right here. There's a terrace that wraps all the way around onto one other side over here. So this is the entire presidential suite. The reason why they put it on the 3rd floor, where is the Valencia located? What major landmark is it located on? The Riverwalk. So if you're in a presidential suite, do you want to see the Riverwalk like this big? Or do you want to walk out to your patio and see the Riverwalk right there? Right? So that's something I thought was really interesting that they, in one of the tours that we took, is that they were intentional to put their presidential suite actually closer to the Riverwalk. So you can actually enjoy the views. That was interesting. Then on the inside of the Valencia, they have an interior courtyard. Okay. So the third, fourth, and fifth floor has this interior courtyard, and all along it, they have rooms that have access directly to the courtyard. So you access your rooms with the hallways like normal, but you can also access the courtyard directly from your rooms. So that's a physical rate fence because they are the location of the room within the hotel. Okay. So these rooms at the time are actually more expensive than the Riverwalk view rooms that you have over here. Okay. So a rate fence typically is going to add a certain dollar amount onto the base rate. So if my base rate is $200, then these might be $275 a night. And then we come over here to the Riverwalk. And this row right here on the third floor, they have what's called it's like a half balcony. And then right above them, they have what's called a Juliet balcony. Anybody know what a Juliet balcony is?
You can just open the door.
Yeah, you can open the doors. You can't go out to the balcony, right? Think about Romeo and Juliet, where she's up there on her balcony, right? So they have a Juliet balconies. So rate fences, the standard rooms that are right here on the Riverwalk. You're gonna have a standard room that's somewhere in the hotel that has no view of the Riverwalk. Then you have courtyard rooms. Then you have half balcony, Juliet balcony, Riverwalk view rooms. So all of those different rooms have different rates that are associated with it. Okay. You might have a standard king and a standard double. And then from there, those physical rate fences are going to go up and add price to that. Non-physical are things that have nothing to do with the room itself, but it has to do with something about the hotel or maybe the seasonality. So during a specific season, like during Fiesta, okay, not Fiesta, this room is $200 a night. During Fiesta, we're going for $350 a night, right? That's a non-physical rate fence. You might also look at if you are loyalty members. So if you look up, like, I'm not sure how Marriott does it because I don't book Marriott that often. But when I go to book a hotel room for Hilton, it will give me the Hilton Honors rate. And it'll give me like a $5 discount for being a Hilton Honors member. Okay. Or it'll give me a $10 discount for being a Hilton Honors member and paying in advance. Paying in full in advance, right? So those are all different non-physical rate fences. So remember, physical is about what characteristic about the room. Non-physical is things that are not physically about the room. All right, rate parity. Let's talk about rate parity for a moment. This is basically the concept of our price is going to be the same no matter how you locate or how you find our hotel room. Okay. So that rate parity is a concept that's a little bit more manageable today than it has been prior to technology being involved. Okay. So basically, if I'm selling my room on my website, if someone looks at my room on Expedia, then the rate should be the same. Okay. It shouldn't be too terribly different. Excuse me. So when we look at the revenue that's coming in, particularly when we're talking about third-party online travel agencies, okay, not all revenue is the same. If my rate is $100 for the night, if a guest books with me directly, how much of that money do I get? $100. Okay? If that guest books through Expedia that has a 20% commission, then I'm actually only gonna get $80 of that. Okay? My costs are still the same. My cost to clean the room, to restock it, to wash the linens, to wash the towels, all that remains the same. So my contribution margin is lowered. Remember, contribution margin is our rate minus all of our variable costs. So when we think about it from this perspective, that $100 rate, if they book it with us and it costs me $20 to flip that room, well, my contribution margin is $80. But if they book it through Expedia, they're going to take their commission of $20 off first. It's still going to cost me $20 to clean my room. So now I only have a contribution margin of $60. Okay? You can, as a revenue manager, you can decide to not list your inventory on online travel agencies. What's an issue with deciding to not list on online travel agencies?
A lot of like families and everything who use those travel agencies won't have access to your hotel.
Exactly. So many people are ingrained and basically have been taught to book through those websites, right? So now for me, a lot of times what I'll do is I'm looking for an area, I'll look at an OTA because it'll give me a lot of different brands, Marriott, Hilton, IHG, La Quinta, whatever. But then when it comes time to book the hotel, I'm gonna go to the website of the hotel to book it, right? So I can kind of compare prices and things like that. But I'm still gonna go, I do the same thing with airlines. If I'm looking for an airline ticket, I'm gonna go to an OTA and do my timing. And then once I find the flight that I want, then I actually go to the website of that airline and then find that flight and purchase it through the airline directly. Okay, so you all can now be industry professionals and your family is like, hey, let's go to Orbitz. I'm like, no, don't go to Orbitz. Go to the website directly. Okay, help the hotels out. I thought it was really interesting how during the pandemic, it was probably like, I would say early 2021, an article came out in the San Antonio Current. It was the Current or I don't know, one of the publications I don't take too very seriously. But they had an article about all these restaurants complaining about the fees on DoorDash and Uber Eats and how it's like a necessity that they have to because people are ordering through it, but it's not helping the restaurants. And sometimes the restaurants are actually losing money because of all the fees that are associated with it. And I was just like, hello, hotels have been dealing with that for so long. Like, that's not really any different. It's the same kind of concept. Now, granted, we're dealing with a hotel room that's $125, $150, and you're talking about a $15 burger. Maybe it's a little bit different in like the scale of things, but it's the same concept. The hotel itself is not getting all that revenue. But who does the guest complain to when there's an issue? The hotel, right? The hotel is dealing with all those customer service issues, right? There was when I was the front desk agent, I remember one time I quoted the price because it shows that they booked through Expedia, right? And the price was like $79. They're like, no, I paid $100. And I was just like, oh, it's saying 79 right here. And my trainer like looked over to me and she's like, David, you can't give them the OTA price. Because then they're gonna be like, well, I want the $79 rate. I had to explain to them that no, you pay them. This is our normal rate. It's the same, but that's just the money we get back from them. So oftentimes if you're at the front desk, if it's an OTA rate, we never quote that rate, right? But if it's somebody else like they booked directly with us, we want to confirm the rate. We confirm the rate with you. Okay, remember we're at a $200 rate, for this stay, just to remind them. Yes.
Now, now I understand. I work at the front desk at Sonesta, and we had OTAs and my AGM was pissed because they were getting it for like $49, $52, 58. She was pissed.
Right, so it depends on the OTAs. I think we'll talk about that at the end of this chapter. It depends on the OTA, as far as how much the commission is and the rate of which the guest is going to pay. Let's see. Let's. Oh, wait, no, it's just kidding. I think it's the next chapter, we're gonna go over that. All right, let's talk about packages. Okay? Let's talk about packages. What is a package? When you think of the word package, what do you think of? Like if I say a hotel package or a vacation package, Mark, what do you think of?
Benefits, stuff like that comes with it.
Okay, so benefits and things that come with the room, right? So the main thing is the room. You're purchasing the room, but then there's other things that come with it. Okay? How many items need to come with the room for it to be considered a package? What do you think?
Two.
At least two. The room and something else. And that's a package. Okay? You can have more than that, but you gotta have at least two items for it to be a package. Okay? What, yes.
Does like the complimentary stuff, does that count as part of the package or?
No, so when so like complimentary, like complimentary breakfast.
That and like the little bars of soap that you get in the room.
Oh yeah, no, so that's not part of the package. When you're thinking about the package, you might say, so for example, we've got Final Four coming up this week, right? This week and next week. So the hotel package might be that you stay with us and you get 2 tickets to the final game. Right? So that's a package. If you stay the hotel room, my normal room rate is $200. Right? But if you stay with me and you spend $600 a night, but that also is going to include 2 tickets to the final game. It's going to include transportation from the hotel to the game, right? So those different package components is what's going to make it a package. Okay. What kind of packages have you guys seen in hotels?
Horseback riding package.
Okay, horseback riding package. Yep.
My property, we have a parking package.
Okay, so it means our parking's already included in the rate. Nice.
I know
Good.
sometimes Great Wolf Lodge will do where if you like to buy the room for the certain number of nights, you get like a certain amount of like tokens. with
Okay.
their arcade and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Free like game pass. for
Okay.
their Mon game.
Awesome. Excellent. Anybody else?
The Valentine's Day. They get like champagne.
Yeah. Champagne and chocolate covered strawberries in the room. It's very cliche, but hey, whatever. People buy it, people go for it. What else?
Mine is like breakfast for like a certain amount though.
Okay.
It'd be like days. They're like there for 2 days, they'll get it for the 2 mornings.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have complimentary breakfast in your hotel, let's say you're a full service property and you don't have complimentary breakfast, you might say that the package includes breakfast at the hotel. Okay. The things that you want to think about when you're thinking about a package is you want to figure out, is it going to be of value? Okay. The biggest thing is there value in your package? Because if there's not a value in your package, nobody's going to buy it. Okay. I had a guest speaker one time. We asked what the weirdest package they ever came up with for their hotels. I can't remember if I told you all this or not. Well, they had the disconnect from technology. So they literally would take people's phones. The package was advertised that we will take your phone when you check in, we'll keep it in a safe, and you'll get it when you check out. And they just threw it out there just to see. And then sure enough, people bought the package. And they're like, crap, now we have to figure out how do we do this? What's the legal issues by taking control of somebody's property, like their cell phone, and you are now in control of that at the front desk, right? So there's like a lot of family emergency happens, they call the front desk or they call the phone, like, and so there was a lot of things they had to work out the details. Sometimes you throw a package out there thinking nobody's gonna buy this package, and then they do, and you're like, crap, now I have to figure out how to execute this package. So you always want to know how you're gonna execute something that you put it out there, once you put it out there. Okay? Any questions? I think I saw a hand or no.
I stopped
Yeah.
that for that.
I mean, there's a huge liability there to say, but people signed up for the package, which means they had to write up like a little waiver for them to sign, to say that they're turning their property over to them, and then they'll get it back upon checkout, and they'll have access to it anytime they wanted to, right? It's not like they're gonna come back to the front desk and they're gonna be like, nope, you're on the no technology package. Can't give you your phone, right? So they still had that they were able to go back and check if they needed to. But the package also is designed for demand generation, right? We talked about demand generation in a previous class. We want to generate demand. We don't necessarily want to have a package on a time when we're going to be sold out anyways. Okay. We want to have packages. We want to implement things like that to entice people to come stay with us, maybe when we have lower, when it's off-season rates. Okay. Or in a situation like Final Four, or if there's a concert happening in the city, people can, maybe we can't give them concert tickets because that might be a little bit of a reach, right? But maybe we can provide transportation to and from the concert or the sporting event or things like that. So those packages are going to come with that. So we have internal components. What do you think what do we mean by internal components for packages? Who provides the internal components? The hotel itself, right? So internal components are things that we offer as the hotel ourselves. So like the amenities, okay? Not necessarily the amenities that are in the rooms, but like, hey, a welcome cocktail. You might offer free breakfast or free dinner. Or what else? What else could we offer that's internal to the hotel? A spa package, good. What else? Golf? Anything else? Think about your hotels. What could you offer as a package for your hotels where you're staying or where you work? Parking, okay, good. Yeah. Okay, room service. Anything else? What would you think what would be an example of an external component to a package? Yes,
Maybe you set up like a deal with like the restaurant down the street that they can go over there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe dinner off property. Good. What else? Yeah.
Maybe like, I know my mom went to Las Vegas at like near my hotel, and then there's like a theater next to it or something. She saw like a show that came with the hotel package.
There you go. Yep, tickets to a show. So if you're nearby the Majestic Theater downtown, if you have certain number of tickets for the shows that are coming up, you can do a hotel and the show package. Good. That people that are visiting from out of town, or even people that are maybe doing a staycation, can come in and then get their tickets to the show. What else? Yeah.
Like you can do like reserve parking for like another area. Like,
Okay.
how at the Riverwalk and stuff that they have like I know sometimes the hotels will let people like not buy out but like kind of like rent like their spots for like an hour or so.
Okay.
They can go enjoy the Riverwalk and without having to worry about getting towed or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Awesome. What else? There's any kind of tour packages that are happening in the area? Maybe it's like a skydiving, or maybe it's like a tour on the boat that's going to go on the Riverwalk, right? So all those different things that you can do those different tour packages. Now, which component, internal or external, which component do you think you have the most control over as a hotel?
Your internal.
The internal, right? Because the moment that guest walks out the door, you better trust that that restaurant is going to treat your guests as well as you would treat your guests in that in your hotel. Okay, that's where relationships come into play. Okay, that's where having those relationships and that networking comes into play and developing those packages. So talked about pros and cons about internal and external. Questions, comments, concerns about packages?
Are a lot of those just individual to the hotel? Or is it something that like, cause if we have a lot of Marriott, so like all the, like Marriott will reach out to those types of things for you, or is it just something that,
No,
Yeah,
it's gonna be more done on the property level.
okay,
Yeah, it's usually done more at the property level. Then now there might be there'll be a lot of deals that like the parent company might offer. So for example, with Hilton, a lot of times they'll do double points. So the Hilton brand will advertise that if you stay if you make a reservation between this time and this time and you stay between this time and this time, then you'll get double points on that pack on that hotel stay.
okay.
Excuse me. So that parent company would do that promotion. But if it's more packages, more things like what's being offered, it's usually at the property level.
Like something exclusive to San Antonio.
Right.
That's done.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you may have a relationship with Go Rio Cruises to say, you know what, the Go Rio Cruises, let's say it's $20. I don't think it is, but let's just say it's $20 just for the ease of example. Okay. I'm gonna sell you Go Rio Cruises. I'm gonna sell you tickets for $10, right? So if your normal rate is $100 a night, then you can sell it for $115. So the guest is gonna say, I'm gonna get $5 off my river tour package, essentially, right? And you as a hotel, because you negotiated that lower rate of $10, every time you sell that package, you're gonna get a $5 boost on those tickets. Right? And so that's kind of how that works. A lot of hotels will work with SeaWorld and Six Flags to the same thing. So the guests can purchase their tickets at the front desk of the hotel to SeaWorld or Six Flags, and it's usually at a discounted price than what's promoted online. But then that discounted price that the guest is paying is actually higher than what the hotel itself bought that ticket for. So that way they're gonna get a little bit of commission, a little bit of money back from that one hotel.
But that's a relationship that's built directly from one hotel to that attraction.
Exactly. Yeah, so SeaWorld specifically has, they specifically have partners, salespeople that go out and partner with the hotels to establish that partnership. Yeah. All right, any questions, comments, concerns? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14. All right, so we got 14 people. So I'm gonna pair you up. And then we are gonna work together to create your own hotel package. All right, so everyone has their partners. So I'm gonna print this out for you guys, so you all can each have your own copy, okay? So I'm gonna print this, this is basically a little kind of a planning worksheet for you. If you want to, you can open up in Canvas. This is the hotel package marketing piece assignment, okay? So you are gonna create a package for either a business or a leisure traveler. You're gonna choose, who is your traveler? Are they traveling because of business? Are they traveling because of they're there for family or for fun, right? Leisure travelers. They have very different needs, business travelers and leisure travelers. So you can decide what kind of traveler you want, okay? There needs to be a minimum of 5 components to your package. Okay? The room is not one of them. The room is obviously, right? So the room, and then 5 components to your package. Okay? There needs to be a specific hotel. Now, if it's a made-up hotel, that's fine. You can make up your own hotel. You don't have to use, but if you also want to get online and do some research of hotels in a specific area, that's fine. Okay? The length of stay must be a minimum of 3 nights, right? So you have 5 package components. They don't all have to be on the first night. You can spread them out over the course of 3 nights. Okay? You need to identify the number of people that the package includes. So is this just for one person? Is it for 2 people? Is it for a family of 4? What's the package for? Okay. You also have to include the dates that the package is allowed to be used. Okay, if you don't, then people can call and use that package anytime they want to. You have to have like that specific dates, because remember, the purpose of our package is to fill low occupancy time period. Okay. So I would like you're going to use this form here to calculate the total cost of the hotel and the package. Okay. Now we are going to be using retail or online pricing. So like, let's say you're doing a tour in the area and you research it and the tour is $25 per person. Go ahead and put $25 per person, because that's going to give you the total cost as if that guest were to purchase everything independently. Okay. And then once you determined all your package components, I want you to create a marketing piece, a flyer, if you will. Okay. You can use Microsoft PowerPoint, you can use Word, you can use Canva. If you have Canva, that's also a really great way to create flyers. Okay. It needs to visually represent what your package you're trying to sell. Okay. So although you normally would not include your total expenses, you're not going to say, this is how much it costs, this is how much I'm giving it to you for. You usually just would say the price of the value of the value price that you're offering. Okay. You're going to include this sheet right here as well with your assignment, with your marketing piece. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
Is that worksheet and a separate flyer we're attaching as well?
To this assignment, yep. Okay. So both you and your partner will have the same visual, you basically have the same information. Okay. You're not doing individual marketing pieces. You're going to work together to do the marketing piece to figure that out. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? What are some things besides like the text that you might want to have on your marketing piece? Pictures, potentially, yep. Maybe a short description, all the package components, the total price. You also want to have some kind of call to action. Okay, so anytime a flyer that you're going to put out, there should be some kind of call to action. What do I mean by call to action?
Like use code. XYZ.
Exactly. Okay, that call to action is basically, if I hand you a piece of paper and there's no call to action, you're like, what do I do with this? Right? Without a call to action to say, hey, scan this QR code to qualify for this package, or visit our website and use promo code lovers in February. I don't know, for the Valentine's package, whatever you want to do. Okay. So that's kind of what you're going to be working on. If you are absent, for those of you who are absent and watching this video later on, you're going to basically do this project by yourself. Those of you who are here in class, you can work on it. Before you leave class today, I would like to see that you have your information here filled out. You don't have to turn in the marketing piece today, but I would like to at least see that you have this information filled out and maybe like a rough draft drawing of what you want your marketing piece to look like. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, so let me go and